Welcome, guys, to ActionSA Western Cape Disability Forum Disability Dialogue. I love having these virtual disability dialogues. I'm Natriela Makotli, so I'm heading the Western Cape Disability Forum for ActionSA. And I love that I have this platform where ActionSA is a political party. It's giving us an opportunity to talk, to be heard, and to fight to be heard. So I am very excited on this month. So the month of June is Disability Pride Month. This recording was meant to be published in June when we are celebrating the original Pride Month. So I'm very happy that these two have collided. I think we could not have asked for a better situation because of the similarities. And also, all of us who are sitting here have a disability. And I want us to talk about pride, in all forms of pride, and specifically I've invited my guests today to talk about their lived experiences as part of the LGBT plus community. Ladies, I don't know if I should be using that term, please introduce yourself to us.
Hi, my name is Emiele Olifant. I'm an entrepreneur and author. I'm currently on a contract working for government on disability rights issues. And other than that, I'm a champion for disability. By that, I mean that I'm not an activist. I think we have been talking long enough about disability rights, about gender issues, about LGBTI matters. And it's about time that through championing or giving people a lived experience of what it is like to be with and around persons with disabilities and LGBTI community. It's like instead of let them experience you, instead of you telling them and talking to them about it, because we have done that for decades now. So hence I'm saying I'm a champion of disability and LGBTI. I don't advocate per se. I think in every day, all of us are advocating for our rights because we do face challenges on a daily basis. So that is like a standard. It's not like it should be. First and foremost that, Yeah, and I'm exploring the entrepreneurial space. I'm in development of that, so I can't talk much about that. And I've written my book, My Life Climax. I published it in 2017, and there I take people through my life experiences before and with. Since I've acquired my disability, through a car accident. I'm paraplegic now. So, and we talk about, and I take you through the emotional experiences, traumatic experiences, what I had to go through to learn in terms of overcoming those emotional challenges or just battles that we all go through on a daily basis, and to becoming an independent or a more independent person, and living a fruitful life with or without my disability. It's a wonderful book. I think it doesn't talk on disability matters alone. It talks to socioeconomic issues that we all go through, but from my disability perspective. From my eyes, this is how I dealt with my challenges to acquire the personality or the person that I am today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Angel?
Hello everyone, my name is Sasekani Masingi, and every time when I have to introduce myself, overwhelming because I don't know where to start. But okay, first and foremost, I am still the reigning Mr. and Miss Albinism South Africa activist. Oh, Miss Albinism South Africa activist. And as she said, as Emiele said, that we are not activists, we are champions. I am living with albinism, and I'm also part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Usually, I don't prefer um, labeling myself. I just say I'm part of the LGBTQIA plus community, because the moment you label yourself, it comes with how do I say, people automatically put you in a certain box that this is what you're supposed to be. But yeah, I prefer to be the rainbow child and versatile. I am a poet, and actually, I'm not sure if I'm still an athlete because I haven't been active for a long time. Yeah, due to some circumstances, but I'd like to believe that I still am. And I'll forever be a peer educator. So basically, that's me in short. I haven't written any book yet, but hopefully one day I'll gain the courage to write one. So yeah, that's me.
Honey, both you and I are in the same boat. We have a story that needs to be written. I look forward to that. But in the meantime, I absolutely need to get my hands on your book, Emily, because it's
Yeah,
Pride Month. We need to be blasting the light on each other. We need to be saying what each other is saying and just really supporting um, other entrepreneurs, other champions that have a disability and are living proud. I think that I'm in company of such well accomplished um, persons that I invited you guys because I really am in awe and in love with the two of you. I've watched what you do from afar, and I just didn't want to miss this opportunity to have this conversation with you. Um, we live in a very interesting country where South Africa was the first in the world in 1996 in the constitution to make it illegal to discriminate against anyone um, for same sex marriages or same sex orientation. All these many years later, I'm very interested to find out what is your lived experience in South Africa. As progressive as that may be, we are faced with the duality of knowing that in the African continent, more than half of the African countries have a ban against same sex marriages or relationships. More than half, more than 30 of them. Um, as progressive as South Africa is, I want to hear from you what is your lived experience in South Africa, carrying both the label of living, of having a disability and being part of this very special community.
I think for me, if you ask me, it's we all have we have a constitution which is great. We have laws that protect us or are seemingly supposed to protect us. However, it's the implementations thereof that seem to be lacking, because I think our biggest barrier, whether you're disabled or whether you're LGBTI, has to do with people's stereotypes, people's perceptions about you. people's that is, I think the myths also, it's the biggest that we face. And just the other day, I've never had to someone confronting me, and I had to defend myself in terms of who I am, as as LGBTIQI a person. But the other day I went out, and this guy, it was Pride Month, and this guy was like, "We are everywhere," and what all I did was wear all black and a scarf of our Rainbow Nation, and that's it. And I went out, and this guy came with my friends, and he was up, really like, "No, you cannot be. You are always on our face. You're throwing this on our face. You're on TV. You are everywhere. LGBTI this, LGBTI." Come on, it's the same thing that is being done when it's Women's Month, when it's Youth Month, when it's any other commemorative month. Things have to be in your face. I'm not saying anything. All I did was wear a scarf, and already you're offended. So you can see that individual perspective of what people think about us is the biggest. Because had he not been with my friend, I don't know how, because he was really furious, and he was so vocal about it. And if you're a timid person, you'll be very offended and respond aggressively. But I had to calm down and just let him be, and absorb and listen to the anger, because we need to really, as much as they are angry, or there are people who are homophobic, we need to read between the lines in terms of where the anger emulates from. That's what is really important for us who are the receiving end, to understand what really goes on the other person's mind, you know. And I mean, I think that's our biggest challenge in the country, whether you or globally, whether you're disabled or from LGBTIQ. And also, like Sasekani, I every time I meet people, I say I'm LGBTIQ, that's it. And already they understand that. But the minute I say I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm something, they it tends to be received differently. Like, "Oh, so does it mean my wife must be careful? I must be careful now with my wife next to me, or what? But when you generalize that, in a way, it allows them, or it forces them to think about what that means. Who is that community from that perspective? Yeah.
Sure, that's hectic. Um, to think that on an ordinary day, just minding your own business, someone can get into your personal space in that way. I do want us to come back to that.
Yeah.
Sasikani, please tell us about your lived experience in South Africa today.
Okay. From my side, I think us as people with disability and the LGBTQI community, we, as the minority group, we make an excuse for people outside to treat us like trash. For example, as Emily said, that when someone comes to us with their anger, we have to make an excuse for them. We have to, like, say there's a reason why they are homophobic, or there's a reason why they don't understand us as people with disability. But we shouldn't have to um we shouldn't have to, you know, make an excuse for people to treat us like trash. I think this should be common sense.
Even though, when I say
Yeah.
I'm a
Um,
champion of disability or LGBT, I'm just a champion of myself, actually, my life. So I think what I was saying is, I don't allow people to disrespect, right? But when you see that an incident is getting out of hand, like this person is not going to stop talking, you don't want to exaggerate the situation to becoming violent, to turning out violent, while you are out there trying to enjoy yourself. But what you do also, it's also my role to understand, because everyone deals with something. Every house has a story to tell. Every person, individual, as much as they might not be openly from LGBTIQ, it might be that they had an experience that led them to that, aggressive moment. So you don't know. And the more you fuel things up, you're not a psychologist. I mean, we're going out, we're in an open space. So we're not in a position where you are supposed to aggravate the situation. You know what I mean? So that, hence I'm saying it's we shouldn't really, we're not allowing it. But where the engagement situation allows for the engagement, constructive engagement, then we can. But other than that, you just let them be at that moment and move on. Because when I say you have to read between the lines, like I was saying, some people are wounded out there, and maybe they also have been raped. Maybe he's been to jail and he comes back, and then whatever experience he had, he's lashing out on me now because I'm now putting it in his face. So we don't know, but we don't allow disrespect. We shouldn't allow that.
We don't allow disrespect, and people from the minority groups have a lot of emotional intelligence, because it takes a certain level of emotional intelligence to calm yourself down and walk away from a situation that could become potentially unpleasant. So I agree with you, and we really do have that experience that when they go low, we go high, and it's not always fair. And I don't always enjoy it, but we have that responsibility. I wanted to come back to you about this particular situation because why do you think our bodies trigger people? You've just mentioned now that maybe that person has had unpleasant experiences. Um, it's really, I've never thought of it in that way. I know for me as a person with a disability, I'm always telling people that anyone can become part of this community. I was not until 32 when I bought my house close to the beach because I would go and jog. I was independent, and now I'm in this wheelchair and I only have one arm that works. It really can happen to anybody at any given time. And I think that triggers people because maybe they think it's a threat. It's not a threat, it's raising awareness. But what, in your opinion, is the reason why our bodies trigger people?
Why I think our bodies trigger people? I think everybody who is not familiar with a situation will get uncomfortable. People will get uncomfortable if they have a situation that they don't know what to do with it. Like if you're in a new position, for example, at work, and you don't have certain experience, it might be that how you make decisions or facilitate your role as a manager, for example, would determine the level of like how confident you are with that with that situation. But so it's I mean, people, only until I had acquired a disability did I really pay attention to disability issues. Did I really make myself aware of disability issues I think I've always been from LGBTI community. I mean, growing up, we never knew what that meant. You just had these feelings, and then until later on, then you get to realize what that means. So why people are triggered about our bodies is just insecurity. It's just discomfort. Some people are not comfortable with certain situations or people. I mean, there are people who are xenophobic. They're not comfortable with other nationalities. There are people who are, you know, homophobic. They're not comfortable with how that makes them feel. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody is gay. Everybody's LGBTIQ, because we are emotional beings. First and foremost, we are spiritual beings. And then you are born and you are given a category because you have a certain gender identifying gender part. You know what I mean? So, and if we all learn to embrace our spiritual being, we all have masculine and feminine hormones in us. Whichever one is more domineering will identify, will determine your urge or your preference, and so forth and so forth. Some people choose, that's their choice, but nobody choose a very complicated lifestyle. So I don't believe that. So it's all those things. So, and some people are fighting that. So they are fighting their, however we call them, the after nines, they are fighting that. And then when they see you being all good and embracing yourself, they have an issue with that, because maybe you know them, maybe you don't know, or whatever. We don't know. So people will have issues with how we look. It's because we make them uncomfortable, and I like making people uncomfortable, because hence I'm saying I'm a champion through you being around me, learning about my disability, and learning. I mean, what I've done now is I've changed, I've improved with how I dress. I'm not a girly girly, so I'm not gonna dress girly girly. So I'll dress proper the way I'm comfortable. And if you know what that means, if you look at me, if you know what it means by the way I'm dressing, good for you. If you don't, I don't care. You don't have to know everything, but just embrace each other. We coexist before anything else. Before you're a woman, you're a man, you're a human being. Before you are disabled, you are a human being. Before you're LGBTI, you're a human being. So we all have to look at this from a human right perspective and start treating each other with respect, yeah? And deal with personal internal issues.
And deal with personal internal issues. People aren't great at looking within. People aren't comfortable with the stuff. They're not willing to do the work it requires. So,
Exactly.
thank you so much for that. Sasekani, tell me, why do you think that our bodies trigger people?
Sometimes I think it's the myths and misconceptions, especially in African countries. Um, for example, around albinism, we we grow up with certain myths that if this happen, then this will happen. If one is born with albinism, then they are not human enough. For example, they don't die, they disappear, such things. It's the same as the LGBTQIA community. There are certain myths around the LGBTQIA plus community. And something about myths and conceptions, they spread from one person to another. And then when you finally face the situation or someone with disability, then the trigger around the myth come back like, oh, I was once told that, you know, uh, someone in a wheelchair is this and that. And when you finally see them, the trigger comes back and the anger fuels. I think that's one thing that mostly triggers people with our bodies. It's the myths and conception and lack of information.
And what they do best is that because of the myths and the misinformation, people tend to devalue our bodies. Or they, because of the mystery around it, They think that maybe if you have intercourse with a person living with albinism, it's got some healing powers. It's miseducation. And it
Exactly.
is
And
very sad.
some people are not homophobic because they are homophobic. They are homophobic because they are misinformed.
I couldn't agree with you more. My experience as a Christian, I'm a very out there Christian. I'm very spiritual. And I've learned that the more research I do into why within the African countries people are so homophobic is because of religion. Even here in South Africa, it's because of religion. And you know what? It's so much misinformation because main commission is that you must love your neighbor as you love yourself. So what Bible are you reading if you cannot love the next person as you love yourself? It's a lot of misinformation on so many different pockets of our society, and just a lack of respect for human rights. A lack of respect for human rights. Speaking of human rights, on the 21st of March this year in Uganda, it became illegal to openly declare that you are part of the LGBT plus community. For me, this was very triggering because South Africa comes from an era where, as a black person, you were treated as a second class citizen, where even to marry a black person was illegal. And for us to sit back and say nothing when people's choices are declared illegal, I thought that cannot be. It's not something that we can keep quiet about. I would like to hear from you. What do you think of the issue in Uganda?
Actually, I was very much triggered with the issue that happened in Uganda because, for starters, I fought so much, you know, for my rights to be heard, and for me as someone who is part of the LGBTQIA plus to be visible. And when you are fighting with issues of disability and the LGBTQI, you are not fighting for yourself alone. You are also fighting for the next person because no one is as brave as, how do I put it? Not everyone is is brave the same way. Like, you might be brave to fight, but the next person might not be brave due to some circumstances. For example, maybe they might be scared to come out because of their family, but seeing you out there as the motivation really pushes them. So this issue of Uganda, I personally, as a champion, I feel like, I somewhere somehow I feel like a failure because as Africa, we need to, stand together and fight more for Uganda, for the people to be free, for the people to be themselves. And now imagine having to live a lie or living a life that someone wants you to live. It's the same as what happened in South Africa back then during apartheid. Certain things were illegal just to make certain people to be comfortable. It's like the same thing is happening over and over again, but in a different situation. So we need to fight more, directly or indirectly. But yeah, we have to stand together, stand for our brothers and sisters. Yeah.
I agree. And as individuals, it's gonna be difficult for us to fight with them as individuals. So, and I think it's a very sad situation what's happening there. And it's like the other day I was watching Real Housewives of Johannesburg, and this guy, they visited Zambia, and this guy had to be returned the next day back home, and everybody's like, where is he? It's like, no, he couldn't be himself here, hence he had to leave. So it's just made me realize that actually I should now, as an individual, when I make a travel decision, not to support those countries that are not for us, number one. And number two, through the institutions, the LGBTIQ institutions and the disability rights institutions. I mean, when we say LGBTI, yes, we're talking LGBTI, but there are also LGBTIQs with disabilities in Uganda. So we need to also talk for those. So through the institutions and government, we can just hope that we voice our concerns not diplomatically, constructively, such that they have to have that international relation that talks to each other. How we got to realize democracy. It's the same process or principle have to be applied there. We need to work with them on that. Hence, I'm saying on individual level, I can't do anything for Uganda right now, or maybe we can, through the institutions, have a campaign, to talk on this matter. But with government is very important in addressing this thing. And I'm not in a position to talk on that, but this is it's bigger than us. So we can just hope that, we find ways of really, just as we've realized our democracy, we help them to realize their freedom. Because I think it can be still, you can fight the decision in court. So hopefully that process is still in play, because I haven't heard much of the developments since then, legally, what has happened. So we can just hope that legally that's been taken on, number one. Number two, through international relations, we need to really, through our institutions, engage government so that they can talk to that government and discuss this unfairness of what's happening there.
We used the example earlier on of the oppression under apartheid in South Africa. And if you cannot look at our liberation struggle without taking into cognizance the huge contribution of the international pressure that the apartheid government was facing. I agree to an extent that we might not be able to be there in person and to effect change. But I really believe that we cannot keep quiet. They need to have that pressure from the international community for them to set this correct. It is a human rights violation. It is a crime against humanity. And we cannot keep quiet. And we cannot stop talking about it now because it's no longer Pride Month. We must talk about now with the Disability Pride Month. Must talk about it when it's Women's Month, because my thing is, what is the value of talking about gender equity if you don't talk about the disabled woman, when you can't talk about the trans, you are going to be talking about equity and inclusion. We really cannot keep quiet. we really have to fly the banner high that we are not happy with that situation until they set it right. With that said, um, I want to ask you ladies to give us some of your parting thoughts. What would you say to a little Sasekani who's growing up and hoping and wondering if there is a place for her in this world?
So what I would say to the little me, I would say that you need to be strong because this world can be cruel. That's the truth. You need to be strong. Never stop believing in who you are. Keep on fighting and never let anyone define you. You are the only one who can define who you are, and never let anyone take away your dream of being who you are. You're the only person who knows who you are, and you're the only person who can fight for you. If you're waiting for someone to fight for you, that will never happen. You have to take a stand and fight for what you think is right and oppose what you believe is wrong.
Yep, we are the people that we have been waiting for. We do need to fight for
Huh?
what is right.
Yes.
Emily, in closing, as a champion for human rights, as someone who has lived past being an activist, what is the value of activism, whether you are from all minority groups, and what is the value of finding the correct allies that will help and support you in your journey as part of the minority community?
I think for me it's I really like what Sisakani was saying in terms of the message to her younger self, and we have to really look into, sorry, yeah, first and foremost, know who you are as an individual, as a child of God, or as a child of the Most High, whoever you believe in, but understand who you are. First, that's what I was saying earlier. Before you have a disability, before you are LGBTQ, you're a human being, and you need to be treated fairly like any other human being. So when you know who you are, you know your SWOT analysis as a person, your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and your opportunities. When you have that as an individual, and it's easier for you when you are faced with life, because life happens. And when life happens, you are able to look into the challenges from your point of view, knowing that you should not be disrespected, and how to address this. As I was saying earlier, that people will throw stones at you, but don't throw stones back at them. Sometimes you just need to understand that there's a bigger trigger behind that, and sometimes we need to help them to understand who we are, to know what we are all about. I'm not saying entertain the ignorance, because some people are just hiding behind the ignorance, but where people really are frustrated because they don't know what we are dealing with. As someone who is from the LGBTIQ, who also has a disability, we have two things to deal with at the same time. All yours is to know first and foremost what you can deal with as an individual, and when you can't deal with certain things, know who you can go and vent from. Institutions, engage yourself with institutions, support group systems that will help you in your journey as you maneuver along. I had to move out of my mom's house when I had my first job, to really say, okay, let me understand who I am, because I have all these emotions, all these preference. Like I like women, but I just want to know and understand who am I, who am I, and also as a young adult at the time, I need to also understand myself as an individual before anything else. So it was very important that I moved out. because I do also want to confuse the family while I go through my own frustrations, frustrate them as well. Hence now the clashes, because mom doesn't understand this one is reacting from each other. I didn't want that. So I know it doesn't work for everybody. Not everyone can be able to move out and stay by themselves, to understand, to find their, and only after that did I write my mom a letter and say, this is who I am. This is what you can expect. Unfortunately, this is this. I don't think I want to do that. So if you're expecting hundreds of grandchildren, unfortunately, maybe one day I'll have one or two, So I had to really get to understand who I am and who I am in this environment. And remember, we all choose our lifestyles. Who I am in my lifestyle that I've chosen, because that lifestyle is the one that's going to expose you to danger. It's going to expose you to help. It's going to expose you to healthy relationships. It's going to expose you to a lot of things that are going to build you up as an individual. So it's very important to be grounded and know who you are. And I think as a party thing, and also know how we coexist, how we can work together. Like I was saying, it's a tripartite alliance. Civil society, individual organizations, often for people with disabilities, LGBTI communities, government, and us, ourselves. We all have to work together to make sure that we address all these things. Yes, we've been talking and fighting. And as incidents happen, they develop, with other countries and so forth, we need to take stock from that and see how we can approach them from our perspective and how we've dealt with them, how we've fought and won through certain things, especially apartheid. Democracy is a great example of how we came out of that, what worked, what didn't work. So as an individual, know who you are, what you can take, can't take, and be content with who and where you are. Don't assume or want to, portray a different gender that you yourself don't understand fully. Know who you are. If you're a bisexual, you're a bisexual. If you're only for this one sex, you're only for this one sex, and so forth and so forth. Educate yourself about yourself, and then empower yourself so that when you're out there, you can represent yourself very well without even being shameful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a power dialogue. I'm so grateful for allowing me to pick your minds. um, it's very easy to live past each other and not really truly have these conversations and really hear what we are about truly and where our hearts are. And today, the two of you really brought your hearts and put them on the table. And for that, I am truly grateful. Hoping that as we move forward, we will continue to stick together as allies. We'll celebrate each other. We'll celebrate the differences that make people not be so fond of us. Because those differences don't make us any weak. Our limitations are just that, they are limitations. We have so many other strengths, and that's what has brought us to where we are now. And I wish both of you a really lovely Disability Pride Month. And I'm really hoping and wishing everyone out there with a disability, everyone out there who is part of a minority community, that this talk has really empowered you and educated you. And that you walk forward equipped after listening to all of us. Thank you. And I really, really enjoyed having you here. And thank you to Thelma. Thank you for availing yourself to do this with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for having us. It's been a great dialogue. We need more of these.